Okay, well, good morning and
Oh,
welcome to the ADHD Express podcast. I am Brian Carlson, your host. As always, we have the wonderful Joe Osman.
hey, yo.
We have his beautiful brother Daniel Osman.
Hello?
Then we have a great new guest today. We have Jonathan Aaron.
Hey,
How are you today, John?
doing great.
Excellent.
Happy to
John
be
or
here.
Jonathan today?
That's John Aaron. Just
John Aaron.
simple John Aaron.
John Aaron. Okay, we got it. John Aaron. Okay, well, cool. Today on the podcast, as we've talked about, we want to. It's okay. It's whatever. That was a beer can.
White
Daniel
noise.
starts early.
Oh.
Just kidding.
Breakfast.
So, as you guys know, on the ADHD podcast, we like to talk about different things in life. We've already alluded to the fact that we love our military and the members of our military particularly. And John Aaron actually started out as a military guy. He's got a little bit of a background in logistics, and then after linguistics. Man, I am going to mess those up. So linguistics, and he got out of the military and is a software developer by day. By night, he is also a software developer starting his own business. And so that's part of what we're talking about as people who like to go down a different path, like to reach out, try something new. John, you want to take a minute and elaborate on that? That was like 30 years of your life that I just talked about in 2 seconds, but
Yeah, it's surprising how fast the time travels. But yeah, so I got married back in 2001. No, 2003. And
can we edit that out so his wife doesn't ever see that?
2004. it was 2004. She's a good sport. But anyways, got married, was struggling in school to maintain a family, had a kid shortly after. So I joined the military. I needed some structure in my life. Went and did that for 4 years and a few months. And in that time, I had the privilege of doing one deployment out to Afghanistan. And one thing that I think was really cool about that is that Afghanistan's really a lot like Utah.
Geographically,
yeah, it has the same weather patterns, snow the same time of year. Mountains are really sharp. They're actually a lot more sharp than the Rocky Mountains. I think Mordor from Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So anyway, I was out there flying. I flew 140 missions as an airborne operator.
140 missions.
Yeah. 7 months. So that was flying one mission a day for, your typical 5 out of 7 days a week. And during that time, it was a lot of convoy overwatch, looking for high value targets as well. But a lot of it was just doing an airborne stakeout, just flying around in circles, waiting for something to happen. And the one shining moment in that 7 months was the time that I got to work with the CIA to track down this guy. Now, what had happened is there were two American officers working at the embassy in Kabul, and one of their Afghani counterparts shot them point blank one day.
Oh.
And so I got to be the operator that worked directly with the CIA. We were flying, they were on the ground searching for this guy, and we got to go and help them catch this guy. And I was the communicator between the plane and the CIA. So that was a pretty cool experience.
And that's right, ain't it?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was probably the shining moment of my 4 years in the Air Force. Obviously, I didn't stick with it. I decided I wanted to do other things with my life, and I separated shortly after. So now I do software development.
Very cool.
And so on that, when you were on that deployment, so it was 140 or 143?
140.
140 missions in 7 months. That's crazy. That's like
5 to 7 days a week.
Yeah.
That's what, yeah,
Like
he
full-time
referenced
job.
that. Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
More.
About 5 days a week.
Okay.
So-
And so just to kind of ask, like, so when you were doing that, what was like the main, I guess, task or like job that you guys were doing? If you can.
I can't talk about the specific thing that I did, but as an aircraft, we would search for high value targets.
That was your main job?
Yeah. Yeah. Wanted individuals that had been causing problems for the war effort.
Okay.
Scary.
Yeah.
Like when you think about it, you're a bad guy, and there's literally an airplane full of dudes looking for you.
Their one job is to look
circle
for you.
the
Yeah.
area and look for you.
There was actually something interesting that I got to experience there. We worked with multiple special forces units, and of them all, my favorite was the British special forces, because the Americans would pretty much do their ops at night. But the British special forces, they would roll up in the middle of the day in what we call a jingly bus. I don't know if you've seen the buses from the Middle East, but they have them all decked out with like yarn and fabrics and things, and
Dingle
like
balls around the windows and all
Yep,
that kind of fun
yep.
stuff. Nice.
the jingly bus. So they'd roll up in the jingly bus, dressed up like Arabs with their beards and everything, and they'd hop out and they just grab a guy and throw him in and then take off.
But they were all special forces guys.
They were all
but
special
they were
forces.
totally blended in.
Yep.
See, that's where the benefit of growing a beard like this in a month would probably be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a lot of fun to watch. Each special forces unit had its own character, I guess. So the Germans, anytime you said something was going to happen in their area or something was going down in their area, they would pull out the tanks and they would go, whole hog toward whatever, mission was happening. And it seemed like the French were just kind of hidden up in the corner, and they got attacked once and immediately started considering like leaving the country. Things that I didn't know actually happened. I mean, it was stereotypes that kind of played out, but that was just one instance of what was going on there. I don't know, maybe we should edit that out. But anyway, that's all I got for now on that. But that was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scary. Crazy.
Yeah.
You went
That's-
from that to software development? How did that?
Are you at like a military software, or did you just go straight software?
No, I just went straight software. So I had already
Used your GI Bill, went to college, did all that good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
so
What made you choose?
Yeah.
I had already gotten interested in software development. I was going to school beforehand. I actually started in accounting because that's what my wife did, and she liked it, and I thought I'm good at math. So turns out it's a lot of simple math in accounting, tracking records and things like that. So I ended up switching to software, and I just fell in love with it. But that was before I made the decision to go to the military.
Oh, okay, sure.
But by the time I came back, it was still something I really enjoyed, and I pursued it again.
So hang on, going to college first, does that mean you went in as an officer?
No.
Oh.
I never finished my degree, believe it or not. ADHD.
Weird.
I often felt like I was either trying to get a degree or I was trying to learn, and I didn't like having those two things at
Yeah.
odds.
Yeah.
And so I would spend more of my time focusing on the things that interested me and the things that I thought were going to help my career than on my schoolwork, and that didn't play out real well for me. Well, it did, but not in the form
Well,
of academics.
Right. Talk about the way to
Yeah.
segue into your awesome little business venture that you got going on. So you might not have had that degree, but you did get the skills that you got a job that supports your family, and now you are able to branch into the entrepreneurship world, right? With
Employee engaged.
Employee
Employment
engaged.
Engage. Yeah, sorry, I had to make my notes, you guys. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Employeeengage.com. Tell us about that.
Just employ engage.
Oh, Employee Engage. I'm sorry, I wrote
Yep.
it down wrong. Employeeengage.com. Tell us
Yep.
about it.
So it is a software that we have collectively, Daniel and I and a couple other partners have been collectively working on. It is primarily for interdepartmental communication and reporting. So it kind of started out as a survey software, because we have one client that we set up this deal with that said, okay, we're going to give you a great price and great service, and we're going to do all these things for you. We will retain the ownership of the software. You help us build it and be patient with the bugs that you find and just help us work through it. And so that's been the arrangement from the get-go. We built the software. They started paying us. And we've found that less than a survey software, it is more of an internal reporting software. And the more features they ask for, we find that we are solving a problem for them that happens to be in that realm of helping facilitate communication. You've got like Slack out there and other messaging softwares that work great. Sure. But in this situation, it's actually a pharmaceutical company. They've got a lot of red tape and a lot of regulation, and they also have a lot of people who are constantly on their feet doing the production. And so there's not a whole lot of time to be chatting on Slack. So what we've done is we've set up different messaging and notification tools for them to get the message out when significant events happen. And the way that they do that, is by creating a form for a specific occasion. For example, like a repetitive, reoccurring occasion. For example, there is a form that has been set up for security to be able to alert different departments when someone from the DEA shows up, or OSHA, or any of the other agencies that are concerned or interested in what they're doing at this company. And it's interesting to see that they didn't already have a system in place to handle that in a timely manner. And they asked us to build that support into the software, and it works great. We can target specific groups of people using the organization structure or by using roles built into the software. And it works really, really well. So
you're in the business of problem solving.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And John's been doing a phenomenal job with the development. The program is like taking strides. And yeah, kind of with the new stuff that they developed, it's kind of a way that if, like, say somebody finds out that OSHA is going to be coming on this day, if they forget to let everyone know that and OSHA just shows up, it can be kind of, problematic.
Sure.
Or not ideal. So this is kind of a way where if somebody knows that an agency is going to be coming, then they just go in and submit pretty much like a ticket, and then that'll automatically text out to anyone who needs to know that that agency is coming, and let them know that they're coming on this day, to kind of give them all a heads up, and give it in a way that's not just like a notification from an app or something like that. Like, it's a text, so you're going to see it.
Right.
So that way everyone who needs to know is, kept in the loop on when those different agencies come. And that was something that they requested specially be made for them. And it's kind of, turning into something that can be beneficial for a lot more companies and industries out
so
there.
That's what I'm kind of, as I'm listening to this. So this sounds like it's for anybody who has some government overwatch, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, can this be a company? I mean, I'm trying to think of who all, like, who's your design, like, who's your target audience?
So,
or you know what I'm saying? Like, the target client, like, is it a construction company? Is it
so at the moment, the client that we're working with is in the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay.
And so for them, it makes a lot more sense because of the amount of regulatory things that they
Sure.
have. And I've been kind of learning more about this. But yeah, like for them, you know, they have the DEA, they have the obviously OSHA and those different agencies, and then they also have, you know, like the water department,
It's like the Environmental Protection Agency for Salt Lake.
yeah.
It's not called the EPA, it's called something else, but it's like environmental quality.
I bet you some of these big machine shops and manufacturing plants that we have around here could benefit for, you know, they're getting inspected by maybe not the DEA, but certainly the EPA and department, a few.
Yeah.
But this way it goes so one person finds out and that person's like, oh, bleep, bleep, bleep. And then everybody who needs to know finds out without me having to sit there and be like, John, EPA's coming at 10 o'clock. Mark, EPA's coming at 10 o'clock. Bill, you don't have to sit there and send group texts, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's dealt with.
And you bring up a good point. You don't even have to know who's responsible for that. You don't have to know who the message is going to. You just have to know, okay, these people showed up. I need to submit this form. And your job is done. And assuming that it's all been set up properly ahead of time, then it takes care of itself.
Yeah.
So does that mean that, say there's 4 of us in the room, we're 4 managers, I'm over on one side of the job site and OSHA rolls up. Can I pull up my app on my phone, create the form, submit it, and then everybody gets it? Or does it have to be at like a desktop?
Absolutely. Assuming it's set up to handle that situation.
Right. So there's some forced in. So who does the initial setup? Like, so for example, we've got a new business venture that I got into. I'm a 25% owner on an adventure business, a guide business where we guided snow bike tour. We've used this software called Fair Harbor for our booking, and they actually set it up for us. They come through, they interview us and ask all these questions, and then they kind of just set it all up. So how similar? What's set up like?
Yeah, we do the same thing, and primarily it's just setting up the organization structure, the roles that need to be used, and that's about it. Once we have that in place, then, well, I guess it's not about it. We still have to set up the forms
that we need, to tell what's going on.
Yep. And
so is there, I mean, I guess, and I'm kind of curious, so it depends on what type of, I guess, stuff that you have going on. It could just be a generic, hey, everybody, don't do anything stupid. OSHA's here.
You can target the whole company if you want.
Right.
With your messaging.
Yeah. Bill, we all know it's you. Damn it. Don't do. Somebody send him to lunch. And I don't know if whoever's Bill, I don't know Bill currently, but I'm not being rude. I just picked that name random.
How could you, Bill?
I know. How could you? How could you? Bill.
Pablo, they're coming.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So that definitely is going to solve some. As I'm sitting here, I'm kind of hearing like, and I don't know. So what's the cost on the software?
Right now, we kind of fluctuate for the needs of the company, but we're thinking, what are we at? About like $5 a person?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's kind of in that range.
$5 an employee. So
yeah.
So if you've got a company of
just got a weird alarm.
Yeah, at the moment it's $5 per employee per month, and that's kind of where it's set at now.
All right, new software, everybody. Just again, please note the cool 360 view that we have right now. In fact, we'll just pause for a second and let Joe do something with that. So that's kind of cool. And so as we have the new technology, sometimes we get these weird little bleeps and blips that we're like, wait, what was that? And because most of us in the room suffer from some severe ADHD, you can't ignore a bleep and a blip.
That's like a squirrel.
Yeah, you can't not pursue that. So I'm sorry that I just did that, but that's why it's the ADHD Express, and we talk about the ADHD experience because that's pretty much it. So and as I hear that, so that's kind of cool. And as I look about that, I'm like, man, how could you feed that into other like even a less heavily regulated industry?
Yeah, well, and so the cool thing is John's kind of built it where the application can be used for a lot of different, like it has a lot of use cases. Like, I mean, it can be used as like a survey thing. Like you could use it for employee satisfaction surveys. And these were kind of the things that we were talking about. But, like employee satisfaction, retention, be able to get like tangible data on that, like judging how people feel about their leadership, like it can be customized to do almost anything you need, because you can build your own surveys, so you can build your own templates. But this is kind of with these ones, it's more of like a focused kind of like tailored to the company, to meet their need. So
How has it
Very
been
cool.
working with companies like that? Like interacting with most people, like they just see a company and they're like, "Oh, that's it. That's a large company." But you're in the meat. You're on the grind, right?
Yeah. So did you have more to say?
No.
Okay. So, it's been really interesting because I was able to go and take a tour of the facilities. And one thing we've done there is we've actually set up kiosks, basically a tablet, where.
I literally silenced you.
So it's interesting because I've been able to go and take a tour there, and we have set up kiosks around the facility where people can go and fill out these forms, or they can fill them out online. I mean, it's all just a web application. So those things are available, and it's neat being able to see how it's affecting their business. We see what their problems are I was able to see what their problems are at a very small scale just through that one tour. I was able to go in, see how they go through the manufacturing process, see the difficulty that they could have in having access to quick communication that wasn't in person. I assume they have intercoms throughout the place or phones. But this is something that allows someone to communicate without knowing who they're communicating to, just as long as, somebody knows. So whoever's setting it up knows. But the average worker doesn't need to know who they're communicating to. And I know that in my past jobs, that's been a particular frustration for me, because I don't remember. I'm the type of person that, on the topic of ADHD, I don't remember statistics or phone numbers or anything really data related, which is kind of ironic considering I'm in the software industry. But for me, I would rather just not communicate than go and hunt down the right person to talk to if I didn't know who it was immediately. And this solves that problem for the base worker. I think there are a lot of people in leadership who are more extroverted, especially in our culture. I think that being extroverted means you show good signs of being a leader. I don't think that that's necessarily the case in practice, but in our culture, I feel like we've got people who are extroverted and often maybe don't understand why they're not getting feedback from people at the lower levels. And I think that's one of the reasons, is just the juice isn't worth the squeeze, right? Like it's not worth it to put in the effort. And if we can just bring this solution closer to that level where it's much easier, then I think we can improve the flow of communication. So
Most entrepreneurs and most people that are extroverted can't do everything, right? But it's the other people that make it work. And those are the ones that are most important. Those are the voices you're trying to make it to be heard, right?
yeah, absolutely. I actually have, it's kind of another irony. I actually have a real love for working with small businesses. That's what I am. That's what I do. And I don't have an ambition to be like a unicorn company or one that becomes extremely huge. I actually want to have kind of a tightly knit group of people that I work with, and just create a quality software. But what I really enjoy is creating solutions for small businesses. So I don't know, that's just kind of an aside.
I love it. As I sit here and listen to him talk, I'm like, my mind is whirling with all of the options and the friends I have that run businesses that I'm like, oh, he could totally help. That's kind of interesting. That's how a lot of us work. That and be like,
Yeah. I think automation has still become an untapped area for a lot of small business owners.
oh, sure it is, because it's can't afford it. It's not there. Like, oh yeah, for $10,000 we'll start fixing you up a system, and you're just like, yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and through the model that we have come up with, I don't know that it's like a really unknown model, but through the model that we've chosen to use in our business is it's we work for cheap, but we retain ownership of the product. That way we can resell it.
Yep. Change it a little bit.
And just modify it for the needs of our customers.
Sure.
Yep.
So you mentioned already you have ADHD. Software is kind of a hard thing in order to sit down and work on hard.
Work through the
Work
coding.
through all the coding, I would imagine, especially at the beginning. Was it harder at the beginning, or did it just come naturally?
Well, it kind of came naturally.
So it's something that you were kind of interested in and were able to zero in on a little bit, apply that hyper focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Like every ADHD person I've known personally has had this amazing ability to concentrate when they loved what they were doing.
Yeah. We
And
keep talking about that.
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I had to rely on to get a job, was I had to find something that I enjoyed doing, that I was passionate about, that I care about. And as long as that's in check, then I'm good.
Do you have any advice for people that want, because software is a massive industry with very few people in, right? Or like,
It's actually growing quite a bit,
is it?
and which can be seen by all the layoffs that have been happening in the tech industry lately. So
Do you have any advice for people that want to start in it or that are going to school and learning?
Because it can be a lot to kind of like when you're getting introduced to it, and like all the different types of coding and languages and like things like that. Like if you had a tip to give to somebody who's just getting started that is really passionate about it.
sure. Now, my advice probably wouldn't be for everybody, but for those who think like me,
Hey,
I
real
would
quick, while
say-
we establish that, have you ever taken the Myers-Briggs personality test?
I have.
Do you know your
They
personality code?
they said I was a chameleon. I was all over the map.
Huh.
Like they said, this either means that you just completely fudged the test, just started randomly filling stuff out, or you're a chameleon and you're someone who just adapts to your surroundings. And that actually made a lot of sense to me, because I grew up in a situation where I had to adapt to survive type of situation. So story for another time. But so my personality type, I think, would be introverted, but a desire to build, create, so going back to your original question, which was,
What advice would you have for somebody that is just starting in the industry or that would like to continue into it?
sure, I would say that if you're interested enough to do what it takes, you just stick with it. You find software. There's so much online that you can just learn from. I would say go find that stuff, or talk to somebody who does it. They can point you in the right direction, and start learning about one thing that you're interested in that field. And as you do that, just keep growing your repertoire of your understanding of the field. If you find words that you don't understand, study them. Like, find out what the words mean until you know what they until you understand them. And then just keep going. And when you're to the point that you're ready to get your first job, you're going to have a little bit of a hill to get over, because everybody wants somebody with the skills, but they want it to be a proven record of the skills. And you don't have that yet. So the best thing you can do along the way is create a portfolio of your work. And what that portfolio looks like will depend on what your focus is. If you want to be more of a software type mechanic that handles the engine and the guts of servers and programming and things like that, then you just need to demonstrate that you have the ability to do that, right? Where on the other hand, if you're building user interfaces, like the part that the user sees when they go to a website, then you need to have a little more polished presentation as far as like how it looks and feels and whatnot. And maybe you get a designer involved if that's not your cup of tea. That's kind of where I fit. I can make things that look beautiful, but I can make things that are crisp and clean and nice to look at. But if I want something that really pops, I usually involve a designer. So
I remember a little while back, there's actually, what are they called? We were about to get one.
Yeah, so John's actually, maybe you can kind of touch on that because he's been working with the development team in Ghana on the program. So he's kind of had some.
Yes. So I met Benjamin from Ghana. He has a team that he's set up, and they do a phenomenal job, especially considering like the challenges they have to face every day in Ghana. The economy struggles there. So I had the opportunity to meet him through one of my siblings. My sister, she's taken trips to Ghana, and she's come to know him and know of his character, and that worked out really well for us in our situation because they are less expensive than a US based team, but at the same time we can make a difference in their lives by providing them a good income and a good wage, and so it works out really well for us in this starter phase. But they have a UX designer, UX UI designer, that's user experience, user interface, and she has done an amazing job at helping us give our application a facelift. So and they've got some developers that we are starting to engage with now to get some more features out.
Yeah, I know that, like, especially in Ghana, I actually used to know a guy that he lived there for a short term, and he said that it was really hard there because if they used their currency, they would, by the time that they walked into a store to the back of the store to buy bread, by the time they got back to the front counter, the price had gone up and they didn't have enough money. They would walk in with enough money for bread, and then by the time they got to the counter, technically they wouldn't have enough money to purchase it. The fluctuations were just out of control. And so I'd imagine like being able to help them like with whatever, like they have these skills, they're probably pretty darn good at them. And being able to help them and give them an opportunity in order to earn a stable income as compared to their fluctuating. Like I could imagine not just that, but also the value in the market. Like their value in the market would exceed.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I love about the concept of trade, right? Is that everybody wins.
Wow. So I'm going to go back a little bit in the nature of ADHD Express. So you flew in an aircraft.
Yes.
What kind of aircraft did you fly?
It was a King Air modified for the military with bigger turboprop engines.
Okay. Have you ever seen an airplane or a helicopter crash?
A helicopter crash? Yes.
Yeah. You ever seen that?
What does it look like?
Not in real life.
Oh, have you ever seen that? This thing on the wall. Pull it down. So, folks, for those who are not watching the video and listening, we're breaking out the piece of molten crash helicopter all over again.
Oh, wow.
So that's a piece of an HH-53. There was a helicopter crash over Twilla, Utah, back in the 80s. It's all hush hush. Nobody really knows about it. My dad was on the crew that went and recovered that. So this helicopter, like what causes a helicopter to melt like that? Like this thing, the whole thing wasn't destroyed. It had a big hole blown in it, and then it crashed on the mountain and broke into a couple pieces.
This was drips that were dripping off of it.
Wow.
And so we're just trying to figure out what that is. And then my mom actually found this really cool VHS tape of that recovery. From I have these patches behind me under that picture.
Yes.
Those are the 65 45th test group, the 501st Ranger Squadron. So then the picture above, right, is the big red semi truck with DOT number and an armored personnel carrier on it. So my dad worked for the Air Force, was stationed at a hill, and hear foreign weapon systems and then test our stuff against it.
Oh wow.
And so my brother and I got to go out to some like Eagle testing range. Is a secret testing range out in the middle of the desert. And so, have you ever heard of Eagle?
No.
Yeah, I was like, most people haven't. That's why it's one of those things. Like every time I've ever asked anybody, nobody's ever heard of the Eagle. Yet my brother and I, when we were kids, got to go there and watch F-16s blow up armored personnel carrier.
And then I assume they'd test the vulnerability of the armor and
Right. Yeah,
Have you ever seen anything that melts it like that?
I've never been this close to wreckage of any aircraft.
Oh,
Pretty
I guess
crazy,
you did a
huh?
good job.
So we don't, yeah. So and we don't have. We do have the video. I don't know that I have it queued up right now, but like, stay tuned. So what we're gonna do is this month we're actually having my older brother, who's a retired chief in the United States Coast Guard. And so he's gonna come out and he's got another piece just like that. So we're gonna sit here and rehash the story. We're gonna play the video and just show it to everybody. See what happens. Maybe some men in a black SUVs will take my video. I don't know.
Hopefully.
I know. I'm like kind of like it's content. As long as we stream the video off site, we'll be okay.
Just keep a copy.
Yeah, keep a copy somewhere hidden. Anyways, kind of neat, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So this was kind of fun because as a dude in the Air Force, you probably never saw a bright red military truck on a flight line, did you? So
No.
he was stationed at a hill, and he used to park out on the flight line all the time. And so as a kids, we'd go out in our family truck and be able to drive out underneath all the F-16s and everything to go to my dad's semi truck. So it was kind of a weird thing.
That's really cool. Yeah, I got to drive up and down walk up and down the flight line when I was in Afghanistan. And one of my favorite things was seeing the helicopters hover taxi in.
Isn't that cool?
That was one of my favorite things. I just sit and watch them every time.
Yeah. So we actually have, in fact, I'll have to try to find this. Maybe this is a good time. I don't know. I've got a video with my brother. We flew out to New Jersey, pinned on and they did a weird hover taxi display and like a hoisting display with the Coast Guard helicopter. Those things are like the Ferrari of the helicopter. They sound cool. I'll have to try to find that and maybe put that in.
Would you recommend the Air Force or like to people like that were in your situation?
Uh-oh.
You're going to start a war.
Let's see it in the
depends. You
comments.
got your different flavors of military, right? So if you love camping and you want to be out in the sticks and roughing it, don't join the Air Force. Not saying that we don't have groups that do that. We do. But generally speaking, people call us the Chair Force for a reason.
I was going to say,
for those that didn't hear that was the Chair Force.
Yeah. So, no, the Air Force is great. There's a lot of benefits to being in the Air Force. And, when you go, like if you go and stay in another branch's, facilities, you get substandard housing pay. So that's just one indication of what it's like being in the Air Force. So
I feel like the benefits all around for the Air Force are like better in every way. From their bonuses are more, aren't they? Like the bonuses, the pay, the most part. Like
They're
a
kind
lot
of like
the
the
things.
rich stepchildren of the, like daddy got married and started the Army and the Navy with mom, all the kids, right? And then they got divorced and then he got married to a newer, younger, hotter wife and they had the Air Force. So the Air Force kids are a little bit more spoiled. And then people are like, well, where does the Coast Guard fit in? Well, yeah, somewhere dad went slumming and we try not to,
That's where that's where Space Force came.
Yeah, that's where Space Force came from too. And I do not mean any disrespect to any of the armed forces, you guys. In fact, I'm going to have my brother on here because he has a really funny way of talking about that. And he was in the Coast Guard, so he can make fun of that.
yeah, same. I went to the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, and I spent a lot of time with members of each of the different branches except for the Coast Guard or the Space Force. That did not exist at the time. So, yeah, I have a lot of respect for members of every department in the military.
Do you feel like it was super beneficial for the place that you were at and where you wanted, like where it took you to today?
The military?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. The main reason I joined the military was to add some stability to my life, and it did that. It helped me to appreciate a routine. I still don't hold routines really well. I'm pretty flexible, but it gave me some focus on the benefits of having a routine, having a mission to focus on and move toward. So I did get that from the military. And of course, there's also the financial security that comes from it, as well as, other benefits like the GI Bill and whatnot. So I would do it again if I were to go back. So
that's amazing. Because I know there's a lot of people that always contemplate it and always are there in the place that you were. And I feel they could benefit from everything that you have to say. You're a very smart guy.
Very smart guy. Tell.
Appreciate it, guys.
Dang. So did you have to move around to different, like when you were in the military, did you have to live in places, or was your... Oh, because you said it was like 7 months.
It was 7 months. Yeah, I was in for 4 years. 3 years of that was training. I don't know why they even let me sign a 4-year contract.
That's great. I was gonna say, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's the tax dollars at work.
Right. That's like I hate that when that happens.
So about a year of language training. I went to survival school.
That was fun.
It was actually a really cool experience. Can't really talk a lot about it though. But it was really interesting. I learned a lot about myself there.
That means he doesn't like bugs. Just kidding.
No, I really enjoyed the camping aspect of it. We went out in the mountains and did a lot of stuff there, and I loved that part. But anyways, again, lost track of what we were talking about.
ADHD strikes again.
ADHD, I lost it too. I was so engrossed. It was just the advice that
you were gonna mention something about the like in your training, because you had 3 years.
Oh right.
Yes.
The first year it was
3 years of training, and then
after survival school, I went to my intelligence training, where we learn about all of the acronyms in the intelligence community, and learn the job there. Again, can't talk much about that, but after that, I had my on-the-job training where I learned how to write a position in a C-135, which is like a big jet that just has operators lining the walls, doing what we do. And then I got reassigned to a 4-person aircraft, and that's what I flew on in Afghanistan. So
wow.
Didn't use my language training at all.
Can you do Morse code?
No.
What language training did you get?
I learned Arabic.
Oh, very cool.
Arabic. Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. That was actually a really interesting experience as
I
well.
bet.
Like,
Yeah, that's different than you probably have known. It's not like learning Spanish in high school.
No. And I've actually learned a few languages in my life, and Arabic's the most different language from English that I've learned.
Can you still speak it?
I was gonna say, let's hear
It's a beautiful language,
an
dude.
Arabic sentence.
أتكلم قليل من العربية ولكن قد نسيت كثير من الأشياء.
Oh, what was
snap.
that?
That was me saying I know a little bit of Arabic, but I've forgotten a lot.
Yeah. Well, when you're not using something like that, for sure.
Wow. You could have fooled me.
Yeah, and that's modern standard Arabic. So that's actually the language that all the politicians and the news anchors and whatnot speak without the dialect, right? So we don't really have something similar to that in English, but I guess you might consider it I guess there's a certain type of English that's more for politicians and
Well, yeah, if
and
you
the
ever
news
read
as
half
well.
of those bills, those words in those bills that you're like, I don't even know what that means.
I don't think they do either.
I don't think they do either. Yeah, I just was reading a new one. It bothers me that somebody passed.
Random word generator.
Yeah, right. Oh, nobody's going to figure this one out. I'm going to take them 4 lawyers just to figure out what the hell I'm talking about.
they do that on purpose.
I concur.
So the different dialects, it's kind of like, okay, maybe this is a bad analogy, but like
We're
like
going to lose
Spanish and like
the
Cuban
battery's dying.
Spanish, you know?
I have another
Like,
one.
they just kind of talk differently. They frame their sentences differently, and things like that.
Yeah, like the Egyptians use a
think I
lot
know where it's
of g sound instead of j sound.
Okay.
Like Egypt is how
Really?
my Egyptian teacher would call Egypt. He did it jokingly, but yeah. So it's think of it in terms of like different accents that you have around the United States. You know, in the South, you got your Southern drawl, and then you've got just different accents. But
Cajun is like a language of its own.
yeah, it's more closely related to like Cajun, right?
Okay.
Where it's more diverse than just an accent.
Yeah.
But-
they're speaking the same language, but you can't understand.
Yeah,
Half of
it's
it.
difficult to understand unless you speak modern standard Arabic.
Okay.
So
So it's kind of like this might be a good analogy. The difference between Spanish and Portuguese, right? Are you familiar with both?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I speak Portuguese and a little bit of Spanish.
Oh, snap.
I can communicate in Spanish because I speak Portuguese.
Tú hablas español. Está bien.
Yes. But of course, it all just left my brain right when you said that.
Está
So-
bien.
Está bien. Sí, hablo poquito de español, pero hablo más de portugués.
Dang. So how many languages do you know altogether then?
That's pretty much it. I mean, knowing Portuguese, I lived in Brazil for 2 years, and I learned that really well, and that has enabled me to understand a lot of the Romantic languages, like French, Italian, Spanish.
Okay, so what brought you to Brazil for 2 years? Was it the military? Or?
No, LDS mission.
Okay,
Oh,
gotcha.
Hey.
Yep,
One of those too.
yep.
Awesome.
Where'd you go?
So I actually served during COVID, and I was called to Arequipa, Peru, but they couldn't send me there because the borders were closed, and so instead they sent me to Boise, Idaho. Yep.
Tragic.
Spent my entire 2-year mission in Boise, Idaho, knowing Spanish. A lot of Spanish speakers, never got a Spanish area. So, my español, muy malo, pero está bien. Oh, fire just tried to kill him.
So when you were in the military, I'm guessing you probably have like security clearance and things. Like,
Yes.
Did you have to get a top secret security clearance?
Yes, TSSCI is what they designate it as.
Oh, you're not recording to your terabyte drive. Mm-hmm. That's all right. I'll jump
Technical
over.
difficulties. Yeah, so there's so many things to unpack there. I feel like I didn't know that you had done so many things, and like
You guys are making me feel like a celebrity here.
it was just so interesting. Like most people don't have any kind of like, even one of those things would be like the highlight. Like that's crazy, that you just done so much,
Hi, everybody. I'm back. Yeah. So, hey, did you get it going? Oh, okay. Never mind. Here we go.
On further consideration.
Musical chairs.
Musical chairs. We're back. Sorry about all that. Had some technical difficulties. We're still working it out. Bear with us. John, so you said we were making you feel like a bit of a celebrity. The cool thing that I think what we have learned by doing this is that, and everybody has a story. And for the most part, it's pretty dang interesting. It really is. Like, I could probably sit here and blow you away with my story because you haven't heard it yet, right? But like everybody, and it's totally different than yours, right? 100 personality is so far different than yours. It's honestly almost comical. And so that is what we're trying to celebrate here, really. It's the whole point of this is we just want to celebrate people, show people different ways of living, and because somebody's going to look at me and be like, man, that guy just stresses me out. You know, I have a friend of mine, Brock Butters. He's a pro snow biker. Have you heard of
Daniel was telling me about him today.
Hero kind of here in Cache Valley, but he's also he's a worldwide guy, and you sit the two of us together, and it's just like, man, like it's like all of us a little bit out of control. And when I first met him, he invited me up to his home to meet his family, and I got to sit and talk to his beautiful wife Marcy for a minute. Like, him and I just started getting all excited about stuff, and like you could see her getting more and more stressed out, and like her worry lines were increasing on her face. And she's like, I don't know if I can be around two of you. You know, and so I totally acknowledge that. Hey, for some people, I'm a lot to take in, right? And those type of people are probably gonna be like, dude, that John guy was awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, we could deal without Brian. Let's get John some more. So, and then there's other people who are probably like, I don't really like software development. Let's go back to talking about what.
And I feel like I feel like a lot of people like
that's gonna come later.
I don't know, just because like living the life experience that you do, you kind of, it's like almost not taking it for granted. That's not a good way of looking at it, but like looking at it as it's not anything special, you know. And
no, hang on. You just hit on something super profound, dude. People take their life for granted. They think what they've done.
You already got your dopamine from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of treats it like, oh, that's just what it is.
That's
but then, you know, it's like when you learn about people's stories, like it's crazy, you know, all of those different things. Like there's so many things that go into it, and like not realized until it's out there.
When I started when I was on my mission, actually, I was put into charge of filming, or actually I was in charge of a Facebook page, and then I started filming, and that's how I got into all of this stuff and how I know how to do all of it. But my thing was, we actually created a series called My Life, My Path, His Plan. And in it, we would hear these miraculous experiences from everyday people, and these people had no clue. And like the amount of lives that were touched just by them sharing it was incredible.
So I actually have a really funny story that you would guess. So and so for some people, I'm going to just do a little background because there's a lot of different people listening to this. So when these guys are referencing a mission, so the LDS Church is the predominant Utah, and a tradition of theirs is their youth go on church-based a mission. Evangelical mission, 2 years. They usually, when they're 18, send them out there in the world. They send them to the MTC here in Utah, the Missionary Training Center, where they teach their gospel, and then they send these guys and boys and girls, men and women, out into the world to evangelize. Yeah, they pay for it themselves. So that's what they're referring to as the LDS mission. Now, what we're talking about though is how profound those things are. So this is this whole how small. I have a brother-in-law, my wife's brother, down in Davis County area of Utah. They've got a little girl who experienced a few. Well, I had a friend who was kind of a newer, and again, honestly, I'll probably have him on the show. He was an MMA fighter. He still is. Stuff really. But he also, same thing. He doesn't think he's that interesting. I'm like, dude, you got a tooth knocked out by Chuck Liddell. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if there's not a lot of people out there when you're like, oh, you got your butt kicked by Chuck Liddell. That's so cool. Like it just is. So, but anyway, so this same dude, right? So he works for one of the local cable provider companies, or construction stuff, and he's a supervisor of some sort. And he gets a call. There's, my brother-in-law is having problems with their internet, right? And so they're like, well, we'll send our problem solver. So my buddy Tim rolls up, and they don't know. Nobody knows. There's no connection. He has a different last name. He looks different than me, obviously, because he's my brother-in-law, not my real. And so they're talking, and somehow they start talking about my brother issues, Tim was telling him about it. Yeah, I've been praying for this family, and starts telling about this. That's right. I kind of mixed that up, but Tim was telling Brian how he had been praying for this as he's describing us and as he's describing Brian, or the problem, the people that he's praying for. It comes out that we're all connected somehow. So it was really kind of interesting. Well, it was so touching. So Tim was just like, well, I was just sharing my faith and how he told me this story. And he goes, and it made me emotional. He goes, so I keep thinking about it. So I've been praying a lot for this little girl, even though I don't know this family. Praying for him. Dude, so our little brother, Chris's little brother, left the LDS church and had nothing. And meeting this guy, like, his faith and like, it's pretty impressive to see him now starting life again, living for God, having some of that grace and forgiveness. It's crazy. You don't know. And so this dude, Tim, right, he has no idea that this has happened. This has been months as all this goes on. And then just recently we had everybody over. Kind of a cool. Tim had no idea what him talking about. So that's what we talk about, these stories, these experiences. People. Are you kidding me? I had one. In fact, we were talking. So I'm a home inspector. I run Carlson Home Inspections here in Cache Valley. I do home inspections for. I got to do a home inspection up in Preston, Idaho yesterday, and the family that owned the home selling their home. So I usually represent the buyer, but this family, they're packing up, they're moving, selling all of their traditional possessions, and they are living in an RV in Baja, Mexico, running like they're a campground. And they're homeschooling their kids. Like, legitimately, when I pulled up to do the home inspection, there's all these cars. There's 3 Jeeps. There's a Porsche SUV. There's Toyota truck. I don't even remember. A bunch of cars. Subaru, maybe. And I was just kind of like, wow, it's a lot of stuff, right? And as I pull in, a couple of the family come out and jump into the cars and take off. And then another one comes out, jumps in, takes off, and then they come back with the other family member. Legitimately just took his cars to a dealership. All of his cars and just dropped them off. Was like, sell these. Like, they're legitimately like up and just uprooting it all. They had a corporate America, he had a corporate America job, left to start his own business, kind of became a slave to the business, realized it wasn't, and they were pretty stressed and miserable. They just kind of decided to deep six it all, selling their house, their 5 acres. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's insane. And they were like, they're acting like it's not even. It's like, well, yeah, it's just kind of what we're doing. And I'm like, you guys, that's incredible. I'm like, I'm so motivated and like inspired by you. So then I started sharing what we're doing, right? And they were like, wow, I'm so motivated. I mean, me and we literally don't know each other. We have been texting. we're like becoming buddies. And so he's going to be our first.
I can absolutely.
I want to do a distance podcast.
Side.
How that works, but Joe, this is the first. So I'm really excited to have them on. And then they are so excited about it that they are now wanting to hire Dreamline. They want to shoot their content and then just have us publish it. While they're homeschooling kids,
This is the first you've heard of
working
this?
remotely, living in an RV.
Yeah, we were texting a little bit about it.
Yeah, this is all Brad.
Yeah.
I briefly met, dude. Stuff happens fast. Like, there's so many people who we're trying to work with right now. There's businesses all over that hear what we're doing. So this is not my background. I'm like a construction
I
guy.
used to work construction too. I used to build houses.
Yeah. And so, like, that's kind of my background. But as I started, I geeking out on this stuff. Like, I'm fascinated by it. I've been doing all these online film schools and learning, and and I'm taking different videos. And
What do you think of the studio, by the way?
It has been
I think it's awesome.
pure joy and fun. Pretty comfy and fun, and nice to be in here. Colors. We're trying to use the psychology of color theory and get a dopamine boost between camera shift. Watch
Probably
this.
another 360 because
The camera just shifted a couple of times. Yeah, it totally did. Yep. So there's another way right there. And so then as you see that and you see these colors, right, the psychology of color theory tells you to feel like inspired and passion, all these kind of.
No, I
what
noticed
those
them
are.
earlier. I thought it was pretty neat. You put this time and effort into this shed. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a 120-year-old building. That paneling right there behind you, that is the only piece of the original wall that I left. And then the floor and the fountain, well, half of it, they broke. Pour the back half. Yeah, this thing has been here for a minute. Yeah, we rebuilt it a little bit, but it's going to be here for.
Oh, more than that.
We hope to do a lot of maybe 1,000 podcasts out of here.
Unless you're planning on
that
building
2000
another
podcast
studio.
here. So yeah, we actually got the lot. We bought this land next door. There's a big lot next to my property that we just purchased, and so we're gonna try to build a shop over there. And honestly, gonna make some content, building some. I don't know what else to call them, but I'm not a traditional hot rod guy like a 32 Ford with a 350 in it and big, slicks on the back. No, we're more like a 47 Ford with 1-ton axles, 4-wheel drive, 700 horsepower, and like
Oh wow.
coilovers are. But then I can do
Kick the camera.
oh, camera angle, dude. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into setting up these things. Well, I think it's a lot easier if you just do an audio podcast. See, we like to add the video content to it because
Well, we have to
we're all
explain half
ADHD
the
guys, and we
noise.
just like to complicate things. Yeah, that's true. Right? That's true, huh? It does help.
Hey,
You
we
get
can. We have
automatically,
a
like, as
Tommy
Tommy makes
cam
noise,
now.
we
Hey,
Tommy cam.
Tommy! What's up, buddy? Oh, you mad at me?
He's ignoring you.
His leg's bugging him.
Anyways,
It's that leg shake thing.
Found another squirrel.
We found another squirrel. Yeah, Tommy. That's what's always fun about Tommy when there's a lull in the conversation where everybody loves a dog. So. Okay, well, that was kind of interesting. We learned about John Aaron. We learned about software developing. We learned about a new program to help you organize
We
your
do a
business
plug
and be
into
aware
the
of
website.
random inspections.
Employee engage. Employee engage.
What was the website again?
.com.
It'll be written on the screen right here. Oh wait, that's out of my.
EmployeeEngage.com. Yes, there'll be this weird thing. Oh yeah, right here.
There you go.
One of us will point to it. Joe,
They're
line
right
it up. You see that, buddy?
There we
I'm
go.
giving you the lineup. Okay, there it is.
If it sounds interesting, check it out.
Yeah. So, very cool. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I actually don't have a visitor lined up. Don't get a visitor on Thursday, you guys. We're going to talk about my new favorite book. So for those of you who are watching today and want to be like follow along, you can buy The Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz and his brother Don Jose. This book was very powerful. Okay, well, thanks for listening to the podcast. Hope it
Don't
was
forget to
entertaining
subscribe.
as always.
Thank you.
Great day. Oh yeah, don't forget to
Tell us
subscribe,
what
like,
your favorite
subscribe, and
branch of the
comment.
military is.
Please comment.
Why?
Algorithm.